Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Derailious, and welcome back to Skyblock News. I know my voice still sounds pretty bad, but we're going to be talking about some of the other stuff on the Alpha Network, and some other changes that are likely to be happening fairly soon. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off here, this was very briefly covered, but I do want to bring it up here again. If you head over to the salvaging menu, which, if I could find it, that would be wonderful. You can see you can now salvage up to 14 items at a time. This is the mass salvaging system. You can also add rare and epic items directly from your inventory into the salvage menu by clicking these, which is pretty cool. I'm really happy about this. Not much else to say about this. This isn't like a crazy huge feature, but it is a nice quality of life improvement. In that same vein, another pretty quick but also really nice new change is that if I click on any of the collections here for any of the bosses, you can see that Master Mode now rewards +2 kill count instead of +1. This will just make getting through these sort of collections a lot easier. You'll no longer need to kill 1,000 bosses to get the heads, you'll only need to kill 500, and theoretically you'll only need to kill 50 to get the golden heads, which I think is pretty nice. Next up, I am in a dungeon. As you can see here, I'm playing solo. This is a normal floor 5, but I don't really need to be in a high level dungeon to show you how this works. I am playing as a Berserker right now, and I do have the swing range bonuses from Berserker that are now new, and also the bonus from the Giant Sword. And as you can see, I can actually hit enemies from fairly far away. And the interesting thing about it is that these attacks kind of go in a cone, so even if I'm not directly aiming at an enemy, I'm still able to hit it. This will obviously be a lot better for people who are in Master Mode or have better swords than me. For example, if you have a Claymore, you're going to have a much better time doing this than me, for example, doing this, which my cone range isn't very high. I do like this a lot, though. It kind of turns Berserker into like this mid-range class. There's also another new perk that was added to Berserker. You get some amount of strength as defense depending on how much strength you have, which I think is pretty nice. Think about it like the Baby Yeti perk. It's just another new feature that's supposed to make the game a little bit better for these types of players who want to run Berserker. And honestly, in Master Mode, I could see this putting in a lot of work. People will be creating builds to actually make this function really well, and I'm very excited to see it. So, looking more closely at the Berserker class, there are two new class passives, Indomitable and Weapon Master. Indomitable is pretty simple to explain. You just gain a percentage of your strength as defense, but the Weapon Master perk is more interesting. As you saw, you're now able to hit in a frontal cone, not just one hit at a time. And also it increases your swing range by about 3.92 blocks here. This is further increased by any swords you may have that also increase your range. I've been seeing people get really high ranges here, upwards of 8 or 9 blocks, maybe even beyond that. I am not someone you go to for looking at really good dungeon stats. As you can see here, this is pretty bad, but you do see that Weapon Master swing range increases are throughout the rest of this perk tree, so you will be getting this all the way up to Berserk 50. Healers also have received a pretty decent buff, although not to the same scale as the ones for Berserkers. You now have the ability to heal a player that is full health beyond their original healing. This is called Overheal. You can turn it into an absorption shield of up to 20 plus 0.4% per level health. This goes pretty well with the healer class, obviously. It will allow you to be more effective in Master Mode, and obviously, as you can see here, you gain 0.4% when you gain a level as a healer. I think this is nice. Both of these class improvements are really good, and I also want to mention really quick, the Berserker Master ability, or the ultimate ability rather, now grants you bonus attack speed as well, which is going to work really well in tandem with many of the other things I've already talked about here. There were also a bunch of other dungeon changes that have just made the game a little bit better. There are new rooms, a lot of the puzzles have been changed around a little bit and made a little bit better. For example, Ice Fill has apparently been made a little bit less annoying. On top of this, they also made some changes to the way that the actual system for getting into the boss room works. If you go in the portal now, you're automatically brought into the boss room. It doesn't take like 5 seconds like it used to. These changes show that they really are still focusing on dungeons, and it is a priority for them. It's just obviously not the main priority as they try to get other major updates out there. but we are getting important improvements, and I think people really wanted that, just to see continued improvement in the dungeons experience. Overall, my thoughts on the class buffs is that they are good. I don't really have any further specific detailed advice about them, because frankly, I don't play dungeons enough to actually try out those classes enough to make good opinions on them. But the consensus from people have been that these updates and improvements are really good for those classes, and generally really good for the game. And frankly, I agree with them. I think everything looks really good on paper. At the end of the day, though, that's up for you to decide. Obviously, leave your comments down below on whether you think this was good, if it didn't go far enough, if the classes still suck, if you need to sell your whatever now because there's a new item. I don't know, just write it down below. And yeah, at the end of the day, look to the future, fellas, because I will see you then.